Eric Rücker Eddison, CMG, was an English civil servant and author, writing epic fantasy novels under the name E.R.Eddison. His notable works include the Worm Ouroboros and the Zimiamvian Trilogy. Biography. Born in Adel, Leeds, Eddison's early education came from a series of private tutors, whom he shared with the young Arthur Ransome. Ransome recalls Eddison's daring and Machiavellian methods of getting rid of unpopular teachers in his autobiography. Afterwards, Eddison was educated at Eton and Trinity College, Oxford, and joined the Board of Trade in 1906, retiring in 1938 to work full-time on his fiction. He was also a member of the Viking Society for Northern Research. During a distinguished career, he was appointed a Companion of the Order of St. Michael and St. George in 1924 and a Companion of the Order of the Bath in 1929 for public service with the Board of Trade. He and his wife had one child, a daughter. The son-in-law, Kenneth Hesketh Higson, a Royal Air Force pilot, died in an airfight over Italy in the Second World War. Writing. Eddison is best known for the early romance The Worm Ouroboros and for 3 volumes set in the imaginary world Zimiamvia. Known as the Zimiamvian Trilogy, Mistress of Mistresses, A Fish Dinner in Mimicin, and A Mezention Gate. These early works of high fantasy drew strong praise from J.R.R. Tolkien, C.S. Lewis, and later Ursula K. Le Guin. Tolkien generally approved Eddison's literary style, but found the underlying philosophy rebarbative, while Eddison in turn thought Tolkien's views soft. Other admirers of Eddison's work included James Stephens, who wrote the introduction to the 1922 edition, James Branch Cabell, who provided a foreword for the 1926 American edition, Robert Silverberg, who described the Worm Ouroboros as the greatest high fantasy of them all, and Clive Barker. Eddison's books are written in a meticulously recreated Jacobean prose style, seeded throughout with fragments, often acknowledged but often directly copied from his favorite authors and genres: Homer and Sappho, Shakespeare and Webster, Norse sagas and French medieval lyric poems. Critic Andy Sawyer has noted that such fragments seem to arise naturally from the barbarically sophisticated worlds Eddison has created. The books exhibit a thoroughly aristocratic sensibility. Heroes and villains alike maintain an Olympian indifference to convention. Fellow fantasy author Michael Moorcock wrote that Eddison's characters, particularly his villains, are more vivid than Tolkien's. Others have observed that while it is historically accurate to depict the great of the world trampling on the lower classes, Eddison's characters often treat the subjects with arrogance and insolence, and this is depicted as part of the greatness. Indeed, at the end of the Worm Ouroboros, the heroes, finding peace dull, pray for, and get the revival of their enemies, so that they may go and fight them again. Fantasy historian Brian Attebery notes that Eddison's fantasies uphold a code that is unabashedly Nietzschean. Had he written after World War II, his enthusiasm for supermen and heroic conflict might perhaps have been tempered. The Zimiamvia books were conceived not as a trilogy but as part of a larger work left incomplete at Eddison's death. The Mezention Gate itself is unfinished, though Eddison provided summaries of the missing chapters shortly before his death. C.S. Lewis wrote a blurb for the cover of the Mezention Gate when it was published, calling Eddison's works, first and foremost, of art. Quote, "Some additional material from this book was published for the first time in the volume Zimiamvia, a trilogy." Eddison wrote 3 other books: Poems, Letters, and Memories of Philip Sidney Nairn, by on the Strong and Eagle Saga. The first was his tribute to a Trinity College friend, a poet, who died in his youth during World War I. The other 2 relate to the saga literature. The first is a retelling of Stybjana the Tjartvirkappa, while the second is a direct translation from Eagle Saga, supplemented with with extensive notes, some which explain Edison's aesthetic and philosophical outlook. Bibliography. Fantasies. The Worm Ouroboros. London, Jonathan Cape. Zimiamvian Trilogy. Mistress of Mistresses. London, Faber and Faber. A Fish Dinner in Memisin. New York, E.P. Dutton and Amp Co. The Mezention Gate. London, Curwen Press. Zimiamvian, a Trilogy. New York, Dell Publishing. ISBN 0-440-503000. Other Poems, Letters, and Memories of Philip Sidney Nairn. London, printed for private circulation. Eagle Saga. London, Cambridge University Press. Stye by Orne the Strong. London, Jonathan Cape. Chisholm, Hugh, ed. Profiteering. Encyclopaedia Britannica. London and Amp, New York.